Hello, I'm Lorianne Lumby with Authentic Freedom Academy, and this is our weekly spiritual service. Today is Friday, April something or other, 7th. And we're going to begin with a message from the mother. And before I deliver this message, I'm going to invite us all to just take a moment and center ourselves into the space and into our intention for gathering today. So I invite you to begin by closing your eyes. And to draw your awareness and your intention, not only to your breathing, but specifically to your breathing as you guide it directly into the center of your heart space. Following each breath into the heart as you draw it in and as you give it release. As you draw it in and as you give it release. Allowing that attention to breath to ground you, center you, and bring you fully into this present moment. And we'll pause for a moment in silence as we allow ourselves to do that. From that place of calm centeredness, I invite you to listen to this message from the mother. And this is from Alana Fairchild's Mother Mary Oracle, and the artwork is by Shiloh Sophia McLeod. And the aspect of the mother that joins us today is Our Lady of the Abundant Garden. Our Lady of the Abundant Garden. And with her comes a message, and we will also enter into a meditation to help us integrate and embody that message. So I invite you to listen to these words. A message from Our Lady of the Abundant Garden. I provide life without limit. You have no need to fear loss or lack. For everything that dies, new life is created to supplant it. For every need that you have, there are ample channels through which that need can be fulfilled. I can provide all with wisdom, grace, and even joyful humor. You can find a way to delight in life and enjoy all the riches that are available to you, if only you open your heart and release your fear. It is a habit, not reality, which keeps you uncertain. Trust in me, my child, and be nourished in my living garden of love. The mother comes to us with a message that we need not fear for our survival. that she has our back and is protecting and supporting us. We have so much already and can open to receive so much more as we let go of the fear of loss and lack that shuts us off from the universal flow of abundance. In the mother's garden, there is always a blossoming harvest. If part of the garden is in decline, it is because energy is thriving and flowing into another part of the garden. There is always abundance. It is always in flow. All we need to do is open to her and trust as we come to understand her way of constant flowing energy. Our Lady of the Abundant Garden comes to you with a gift of abundance, and you are asked to remain open and to know that she has endless provisions through which she blesses the unfolding spiritual destinies of all her children. And we now enter into the mother's meditation. So I invite you to close your eyes and envision in front of you a beautiful, large tree. A tree that is beautiful, old, and wise. Sense that there is tremendous energy rising up from the roots of this tree, flowing out to its branches. Some branches are full of life, preparing to bear blossoms and then fruit. Others have life force drawing back from them, withering, so that the energy can flow toward the fruit-bearing branches instead. In this way, the whole tree benefits. Allow yourself to perceive the tree as a symbol of your own life. Being attentive to what in your life might be withering. Those things that seem to no longer be bearing fruit. Those things that require enormous effort. Those things that are no longer enjoyable or fulfilling or giving you a sense of meaning. Those things that might be work related, might be relationship, might be how and where we spend our time, to what we give our attention, and how we use our energy. Allow yourself to become aware of those branches that are withering. As you begin to identify those withering branches, also become aware of any emotions that might be surfacing as you become aware of those withering branches. Maybe there is fear or regret, frustration, or even sorrow. As you become aware of these emotions, recognize that these are the natural expression of grief. The grief that we naturally experience in the face of any death or dying or loss. Allow yourself to refrain from judging those feelings and instead to just hold yourself in love and compassion, allowing those expressions of grief to be seen, felt, and processed. I now invite you to turn your attention to the branches of your tree that are robust and greening, those that are producing foliage, those that are blossoming, those that are bearing fruit. Allow yourself to become aware of those signs of life and new life that are coming forth from your tree. Those things that are life-giving, those things that are enjoyable, those relationships that give life and reciprocity, those relationships that are in harmony, where the flow of support is a give and a give. Acknowledging those work-related things that are producing life, or those that are showing the signs of new life. Maybe it's just a bud that is beginning to peek out on that branch, or that greening that takes place just before the leaves emerge or the blossoms emerge. Allowing yourself the freedom to not need to define or understand or even to know, but to trust that those signs are signs of life that is coming into form. Allow yourself to feel the life-giving flow of the sap that moves within and throughout the tree. The lifeblood, the breath, the heartbeat. All of those signs of abundance and life, and the promise of new things coming into form as we allow the old to fall away. Allow yourself to feel that flow of release and also that flow of promise. And to feel the abundance of the new life that is seeking to come into form. And I invite all of us to rest in a few moments of silence as we allow our witnessing of the tree to continue to unfold within our mind's eye. And we will close this meditation with this healing affirmation. And I invite you to take these words as your own and bring them into your heart. And these are the words. My life is a tree of life, thriving in the Divine Mother's garden of abundance. The Divine Mother who loves me unconditionally helps me to trust in what is coming, even when I am letting go. The abundance of the Divine Mother knows no limits, and I am provided for through her loving grace. As you have completed that meditation on the abundant garden, if you haven't done so already, I invite you to spend some time in reflection on that piece. And maybe if you have a notebook or journal, write down some of your thoughts and reflections on that. And what came through for you as you were pondering that meditation. So for this part of our service, we're going to move into what I'm going to call the Cosmic Booster Shot. And this was inspired by, I guess I'll say, the unfolding of events and situations in our world, and especially as it relates to those of us that are feeling called to be part of transmuting the changing world and supporting the birth of something new. And there is a call within that that is about focusing on our own self-care, our own piece of the puzzle, and really staying grounded in that. And it also is about taking the role of objective witness so that we can see and witness and acknowledge the flailing and the death throes of the dying world and not get caught up in that. And so to help support us in that reflection, I invite you to listen to these words from Matthew's Gospel. And this is from Matthew chapter 10. And this is part of Jesus's guidelines and directions to his disciples as he sent them out into the world to heal and preach and transform. So I invite you to listen to these words. Whatever town or village you enter, look for a worthy person in that town or village and stay with them until you leave. As you enter a home, wish it peace. If the home is worthy, let your peace come upon it. If not, let your peace return to you. Whoever will not receive you or listen to your words, go outside the home or the town and shake the dust from your feet. Amen, I say to you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town that rejected your peace. I hate to use this overworked word, but unprecedented is really an appropriate word to use in describing the times that we're moving through. We've talked many times in this circle about the world that is dying, the world that was created and based and enforced through fear, power, oppression, and control. That world is dying. And as that world is dying, what is coming forward is all that's been hidden behind the veil of that world. All of those systems, I'm going to use the word evils, deceptions, betrayals, that have kept that world afloat, but have not been rooted in love. The shadow of our world is presenting itself. The shadow is everything that is not based in love. And we are seeing over and over and over and over the revelations of these shadows. And we live in a world where the majority of people have not been given the tools or have not found the tools within themselves to A, understand what's happening, and B, do anything about it. So what we see is a planet of people running amok, looking for a way to find some semblance of surety, security, safety in a world that's imploding upon itself. And they don't even understand what's happening. So as these death throes continue, the reactions to what the majority of people don't even understand, the reactions are getting louder and more, I'm going to say, insane. Reactions that are not even based in reality, are not based on truth, are not based on understanding or science or anything other than pure reaction. And these reactions are coming from a place of deep woundedness. Again, we live in a world of wounded, broken human beings who do not have the resources or tools to know how to heal or even acknowledge their fears, their past woundedness, the traumas that they've experienced, or the societal conditioning that has been contrary to their soul's longing and their soul's truth. Instead of knowing how to do the work of identifying those fears, identifying the conditioning that is not in harmony with themselves, identifying a system that has kept them imprisoned by guilt or shame or just flat out oppression, instead of having the tools to identify the source of their reaction, they have no choice but to react. So what we're currently seeing in our world is a cacophony of reactions that I would say 90% of the time have nothing to do with what people are pointing at as the cause of their feelings, but more likely have something to do with an unhealed wound within themselves. The greatest challenge as we move through this continuing dying of the old world is to not get caught up in the reactions, to not get caught up in other people's fears, to not get caught up in other people's soapboxes or platforms or messages based in fear. It is so hard to not get caught up in that, especially when these reactions are coming from people that we love and care about. But it is ever more critical that we remain neutral. Neutral meaning we can see it, we can observe it, we can watch it, but we have to stay out of it. We are not going to be able to change the tide of a world that is stampeding towards its death. And we shouldn't try to stop that flow. This past weekend, I had a little meltdown over these loud reactions and the forceful voices that are delivering these reactions. And in response to that meltdown, I sat down in deep prayer and meditation and asked for an answer. Help me understand how people that I care deeply for are seemingly so far away from where I am in my own beliefs and understanding. And the answer was clear. The answer was every voice is needed right now. And that sounds bizarre unless I put that in the context of discernment. The image that I saw was of Pandora's box. But this time, Pandora's box isn't just full of evils, it's full of all the good as well. It's full of all the parts of the world that need to die and all the parts of the new world that is coming into form. And what I saw was Pandora's box open and shaken out into the universe. And floating above us and around us and between us are all the parts of the dying world and all the parts of the world that's trying to be born. And right now we are in the middle of the great discernment. What needs to die and what is coming into form. And our job is to focus. We can't not see the death. It's there, it's loud, it's obvious, it's obnoxious. And it's going to keep getting louder and more obnoxious. And as we move into the fall and the winter, and COVID-19 does or doesn't do what it may or may not do, it's going to get even louder. And we can't not see it. We can't not hear it. But it's not our job to change it or to try to convince anyone of anything. It's our job to hold that space in love as the old world dies, and at the same time, hold that space of promise and hope. And in that space of promise and hope, opening our eyes and our hearts and our minds and our being to the glimpses of the new. What are the new things that are trying to come into form? What are the little glimpses of it that are showing themselves to us when we have the eyes to see and the ears to hear? We are called to stand in that bizarre place between the death and the new life, and to stand in that place without grasping or trying to control or trying to define, but to simply allow the universe to do what it needs to do to sort through this mess. And a mess it is. And as we continue on this process, this is where Jesus' guidelines to his disciples come into play. Because we know what our truth is. We know what speaks truth to us. We know where our energy is being called for. We know what feels harmonious and life-giving and supportive. We also know what does not. And the only thing we need to know is our own place in this journey. And there will be those that don't want to hear what we have to say, aren't where we are in our discernment of truth, or quite frankly, have a different role to play. And our invitation is to not worry about those that are speaking a different language or delivering a different message or want to condemn us for the message that we want to communicate or feel to be our truth. And Jesus's message is, you don't have to worry about those people. If they can't hear what you have to say or don't want to hear what you say, shake the dust off your feet and walk away. Because there are enough that want to hear your voice, want to hear your truth, resonate with your truth, are part of your community. It's why Jesus always said in his teachings, for those who have ears to hear, for those who have eyes to see. Some are able to hear the truth, some are not. And this is especially true as we're looking at a dying world. People crave same. They crave status quo. They crave familiar. And any message that might challenge that becomes either cognitive dissonance, so discomfort, lack of understanding, but it also becomes fear. Don't tell me the world's going to die. I don't want to hear that message. Don't tell me there's going to be a global financial collapse. I don't want to hear that. Don't talk to me about the sins of the priesthood, because I'm comfortable in believing that this institution is sacred and holy and perfect. So our place is to stand in our own truth, to be grounded in that truth, and to not worry about where other people are in their own process, to stay in our lane. And in those situations where we are condemned or criticized or ridiculed because we've dared to share our truth or live from our truth, we shake the dust from our feet and we simply walk away.